Hakodash. Double honors to the outer bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me his truth. Um, Today's camp mainly wanted to start off with going over prophecies, going over the war, what's happening right now. If you were to go on the news, you see all types of news going into how um, Lebanon and Israel right now getting into a conflict. Right, Israel sent missiles over there to Lebanon. Right, you also see news going into how uh, Putin, right, Putin is demanding that NATO is going to get some payback because they killed innocent Russian citizens on the beach. Right, and pretty much you see escalation. Okay, so I wanted to touch on that and go into how all that is prophetic. Everything that is happening right now pretty much goes down to like 3 chapters in the scriptures, right? And ultimately, right, World War III talks about it. All the world wars have been talked about in the scriptures, right? You go into World War I, it was talked about, I think, in Revelation 9, where it goes into the fighter jets, right? It goes into the dogfighting, okay? It refers to them as not scorpions, but dragonflies, I think. I don't remember exactly, but Revelation 9 is talking about World War One, right? And then it talks about one woe is past, two more are to come. Right? Then World War Two, right? It says two woes are past and one woe is left to come. Right? One coming quickly, right? Which is talking about World War Three. Okay, and that's going to be the war that ends it all. Okay, after this third world war, there's not going to be any more wars because Yahweh Shah is going to be reigning upon the earth, and righteousness and peace is going to be established. Okay, let's actually get a scripture dealing with that first before I hit the war scriptures. In Isaiah the 2nd chapter, right? Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1, it says, "The word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established on the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it." Right? And I went into this in greater extent last camp, right? Going into how, hey, the kingdom of heaven, right? What that's talking about. Okay, but ultimately this is talking about when Yahweh Shai comes back to set up his kingdom, which is the Israelites ruling forever, immortal, and in righteousness. Right? The law, statutes, and commandments are going to be the primary way of living. Okay? Are going to be the way of living. Not primary. But it says, "And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem." Right? That's the point, is that Zion, the Israelites, hey, we're going to be the beacon. We're going to be the way, the example of how to live. Okay, when you go into the scriptures, I think it's Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, right? It talks about how that's the main reason. One of the main reasons we were given the laws was to distinguish us from the other nations. Right? We're supposed to be a light, an example. Right? The nations were supposed to look at us and be like, damn, these wise people, we gotta live like them. Okay, and all of that is gonna come back again. But it says, "He shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." Okay? And this hasn't happened yet. And you have those Amalekites, those people over in the land of Israel, that try to use the scripture to justify pretty much the genocide that they're committing. They try to use the scriptures to say, oh, we're the ones that are bringing this to pass. When in actuality, Yahweh Shah is the one that's going to bring this to pass. Not nothing made of man. Right? You literally had that guy, Netanyahu, quoted the scripture. Okay? This is ultimately what's going to happen after World War III. Let's now start going into those scriptures. Right? Because recently you have on the news, I think it was the NDAA, or I think it was the House, which passed a bill, and they're in the works of passing a bill that would bring back the military draft, right, for men aged 18 to 25. And also, the House threw in a bill in there, pretty much making it mandatory also for women, right? So, the next draft, which is going to come, right, it's a prophecy that there's going to be a world war and there's going to be a draft. The next one, men and women are going to be drafted into this thing. Okay, nobody's going to be left behind. Okay, and when America sees that they're losing, because that's what's prophesied, hey, they're going to raise up that age limit. That's going to go from 25 to 30. to 35. And eventually, whoever has military experience is going to have to go out there to the east and fight that World War, right? That World War III. So let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50, because it literally says that verbatim in Jeremiah, right? Jeremiah chapter 50 and Jeremiah chapter 49 or 51 is mainly talking about America when you go into it. Talking about Babylon the Great, talking about what's to come. Okay, it's all in there. But Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 45. I'll start with this, yeah. Going into how all of this is going to come to pass, right? Because ultimately, the way things are written to happen in the World War III, it's already written exactly what's going to happen, right? First, it starts with Israel, Palestine conflict, Israel, Lebanon, Israel, Iran. Russia is back in Iran. America is back in Israel, America, Russia. Right? That's the timeline of how it's going to happen. And everything I just said is in Jeremiah the 50th chapter. All right, let's read it. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 45. It says, "Therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes they purpose against the land of the Chaldeans." Now, when it's talking about Babylon here, it's talking about America. Okay, America. It says, "Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them." Right? And when it's talking about the least of the flock, it's talking about those people over there in the Holy Land. Right? They're the least of the flock. Okay, the most base men. Okay, Edomites. Okay, and that little small group of people are gonna be the ones that bring them out. Bring out who? The major nations, the big boys. Okay, Russia. Okay, China. Okay, North Korea. Okay, it's all gonna be from the small conflict, Israel. Okay, it says, "Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them," right? Because from this least of the flock, eventually it's going to go nuclear, and their habitation via America and Israel is going to be completely wiped out, right? It says, "At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations," right? Going into what's going to happen, right? That noise of the taking of Babylon, okay, and the earth being moved is going into the nuclear destruction, okay? It's going into the nuclear destruction. Okay, when you go into the scriptures, that's what's prophesied or written about a million times, right? Isaiah 34 talks about it. Revelation 6 talks about it. Okay, it's all talking about nuclear destruction here in America. One more time it says, "At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations." Right? Because once this place goes down, these other nations are going to witness it. Now, this is going to be a worldwide event. Okay, it talks about that, like I said, go to Revelation. I think Revelation 18. Let's grab that. Right. Revelation chapter 18 and verse 17 it says, "For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company of ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off." Right? Going into how, what did we just read? Right? This place is going to go down in 1 hour. And the only way that's going to happen is by the way of those ICBMs, right? Intercontinental ballistic missiles. Okay? And it says that every shipmaster and all the sailors and all the company of ships and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, "What city is like unto that great city?" Right? And that's what I just read in Jeremiah 50 and verse 45. Going into how all these nations, they're going to see it afar off, right, when this place gets wiped out. Okay? It says, "And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour she is made desolate." Right? So every single nation, right, they come over here to get rich. Right? They have their cheap goods over there that cost them nothing. And they come over here and they sell it in the big dollars. Right? They make tons of profit. Okay? And when you go into it, everything that is here in America is normally it's pretty much imported. Right? All the goods and values, you look at your clothes made from China. Right? You look at your your cutlery, right, your furniture made in Taiwan, okay, or just made somewhere else. Everything here is normally imported, okay, and that's how these other nations get rich. So when it's talking about they saw this place go down, they're like, damn, we made a bag off America, and it finally went down in 1 hour, right? So going back to Jeremiah 50, I'll read it one more time, because this is literally what's happening, right? Jeremiah, the 50th chapter. And that's why when you go into it, it refers to this truth, right? Wisdom be more valuable than gold and silver, right? The reason, let me put my phone on, dude, and see what I'm saying. Right? The reason this truth is referred to as more valuable than gold and silver, right? Knowing the prophecies is because when everything collapses, right? You know why it's happening. You're not going to be out here shitting yourself and trembling. You've been waiting for this, right? So mentally, we're already going to be built up. Mentally, we're being built up right now, the elect. Okay, but when shit really goes down, okay, that wisdom, that light is really, people are going to see that, right? People are going to be looking for the word, and they're going to see that, hold up, why does this guy move different? Why is he not worried? Why is he not stressing? How does he have food? Right, all those things are going to be visible. And all these people, right, talks about it in Isaiah, I think it's, let me find the scripture. All these people are going to go to their witchcraft for agnosticators. All these people are going to go to their witchcraft and try to find answers, but none of that is going to save them. Right? And I was actually talking about that today with my family, my mom and my grandma, going into how, right, witchcraft and all these things, we were talking about it, and we're going into accounts of how ladies have, like in Cuba, right, because my family goes back to Cuba. She was going into accounts about how some lady, right, she did like surgery on her, and now touching her, she had the stitch points and everything, right, and pretty much miracles. And I was explaining to her that even though, right, these people might be doing good to you, they perform all these miracles, right, it's in the wrong way, right? They're using familiar spirits, right? That's pretty much magic, right? Witches, right? Even though they're doing good, it seems like they're doing good. The way they're doing it is in the wrong fashion, and that matters. Doesn't matter if they heal your arm or leg, if they're doing it in the wrong manner, okay? And ultimately, hey, these people are gonna realize that, right? If you're not serving Yahweh Shem Shai, or your witchcraft or whatever you're doing, even though you think you're doing it in good intentions, it's not going to help you, right? Because there's only one way to salvation, okay? There's only one way, not no santeria. But this is Isaiah chapter 47. This is a fire. It's a fire chapter. Now that I'm reading it, I haven't read this in a while, right? This is going into America. I'm gonna just read a little bit more before I hit the point. In Isaiah chapter 47, in verse 9, it says, verse 8, it says, therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. Right, that's talking about America. America's philosophy and mindset is that they're never going to go down. Here it is, we're the top. Right, we're the best. We have the best defense. Right? Army, military. Right, nobody can touch us. It says, but these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood, they shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. Right, going into the witchcraft that this place does. There's a reason this place is called Babylon the Great, right? The mother of harlots and abominations. Okay, right? The reason is because anything flies here. The same way a harlot sleeps with everybody is the same way here you can sleep with any philosophy or ideology, right? Anything flies. You want to be a Mo? Hey, go ahead and do it. These people tell you. You want to go and worship Allah or some other false gods? Go ahead and do it. Right? Anything flies here. Okay, and for that reason, that's why this place has to be destroyed, right? Because that's wickedness. When you tell people that they can do whatever they want, that goes into breaking the law, statutes, and commandments. And for that reason, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai is coming to wipe this place clean off the earth. Right? And this place is never going to be brought back up. Right? America is going to be a desert forever. But it says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. That wisdom and thy knowledge it hath perverted thee. Thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Right? And going back to what I just read in Revelation, right, that's also one of the reasons why these nations are going to be shook. Right? Because the same mindset that America has, right, they have pushed amongst the other nations. Right? That mindset that they are never going to go down. Right? That they're the best, that they can't be touched. And these nations, to some extent, they believe that. So when these nations and these random, right, people, they see that this place actually goes down, right, it's also going to be shook. They're going to be shook. Right? They're going to be like, damn, right, these people actually, it actually happened. Okay? It says, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Right? Going into everything they do. Right? Monthly prognosticators. Okay? You can see that from the top to the bottom. Right? The elite, they all do these things. Right? The elite, they commune with devils and spirits. Right? And they get revelations on how to do things. But ultimately, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai has them in a trick bag. Right? The Lord has them in a trick bag. Everything that they're doing is to play out His will, to play out the prophecies. So yeah, they commune with devils and spirits on how to do things, how to get fame. Right? You see this with all these actors, all these basketball players. Right? All of a sudden, as soon as they start getting fame, you see them throwing up the signs. Right? You see them start getting their nails colored. Right? You see them start dressing like females. Right? Playing a female, pretty much acting like a female on stage in movies. Right? All of that is humiliation rituals, and that's part of that. Pretty much doing deals with the devil, right? Because when they're out here dressing like females, right, they're breaking the law, statutes, and commandments. Right? This is literally a law that says a man shall not wear the attire of a woman, right? Neither shall a woman wear the attire of a man. Now, when you go into it, a woman is not supposed to wear jeans. Right? That's because that's an attire of a man. They're supposed to wear dresses and wear modest clothing. Right? So when you have grown men out here in heels, right, in mini skirts with a makeup on, right, you're literally making them go against the Most High, and they get ultimately rewarded in this life with all types of benefits. And all of a sudden they get fame, right? And that fame and notoriety, right, all of a sudden he becomes the best rapper, right? He starts getting bars off the top, right? That's Satan directly, pretty much helping him up, right? Because Satan right now is influencing the world. He has the power of everything here. That was even told to Yahweh Shai on the mountain. Let's actually get that scripture. Right. In Matthew the 4th chapter. Right, in Matthew chapter 4. Start at verse 1 and get the whole account. It says, Then was Yahushua led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And we had fasted 40 days and 40 nights. He was afterward and hungry. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made of bread. Right, so Satan was tempting him, telling him, hey, if you're truly the Son of Yahweh, right, make these stones bread. Right, and Yahweh Shai, he had that power, right, but that was not written to happen. Right, it was written that he would go and die on that cross, again, that he would not use his power to change it. Okay? He came to do his Father's will. It says, But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. And Yahweh Shai said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy power. And this is the point. It says again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Okay, and that's the point, is that Satan, right, literally showed Yahweh Shai all the kingdoms of the earth. Right, he showed them Babylon the Great, America, and he showed them, yo, if you bow down to me, I'll give you all this. Right, you could be at the top of America. Right, you could be at the top of Rome, right, of the Byzantine Empire, whatever came after. Right, he was pretty much crucified. Right, and he has the power. Right, so he said one more time, and said unto him, All these things, will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then said Yahushua unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. That's the point, is that Satan has control over this earth, right? Job chapter 9 and verse 24, right? The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? And he covereth the faces of the judges thereof, right? So Satan is actually ruling this earth, right? And also his physical counterpart, the Edomites, are ruling this earth, right? So when Jake goes out here and sells out, and you have all these Amalekites, right? These people with little small black hats that help him out, okay, to do all these things, that's Satan ultimately. Right? At the end of the day, is Satan doing that, okay? So going back to Isaiah chapter 47, I went on that tangent because in verse 13 it says, Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Right, so pretty much all your wizards, all your communing with devils, let's see if they save you from the day of the Lord. It says, Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. They shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee, with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. And that's the point, is that all this witchcraft that these elite do, okay, all these false gods that these people worship, okay, it's not going to be able to save them. Right? You're not going to be able to evade a nuclear missile, okay, worshiping Allah, worshiping JC, Jesus Christ, okay, and that false doctrine that the church pushes. It's not going to save you. The only way is to call upon the names Yahweh, Yahushai, right, in truth and sincerity and true faith. Again, follow the right doctrine, right, keep the commandments to the best of your ability. And that's the only way. Okay? So, let's go now to Joel, the 3rd chapter, verse 1. See what the Lord is coming back to do. Right? Because I always say America, right? America is where the biggest salvation slash destruction is going to take place. Right? The biggest salvation slash destruction is going to take place is here in America. And that's why you see all these immigrants, right? You see all these Latinos, okay, our people coming over here, right? They're all coming over here to either get delivered or destroyed. This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. Right, so Yahushai is coming back to save his people. Right, that's Matthew chapter 1 and verse 21. Right, he's coming back to save his people. Right, those that were scattered. Right, Matthew chapter 10, verse 5 and verse 6. Right, he's coming back to recover the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Those that were scattered and are in captivity amongst all the nations. It says, right, and Judah and Jerusalem. Right, Judah is a symbolic, right, it means pretty much the southern kingdom. And Jerusalem is symbolic for the northern kingdom. It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which means Jehoshaphat or Jehoshaphat means Yahweh's judgment. It says, I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among. I was saying, it says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered amongst the nations and parted my land. Right? And that's the Lord coming back to get his get back. Now that's the Lord being a just balance. Right? Because everything that these other nations have done to the Israelites is going to happen to them. Right? Every single thing. Okay, and the Edomites, hey, they're going to receive double what they have done unto us. Okay. Esau is going to receive double what he has done to his brother Jacob. Okay, because in actuality, we are related to so-called Latinos, Negroes, Native Americans are related to so-called white people, right? And I'm using those terms so-called because there's no such thing as a white person or a black person, right? We go back to biblical nationalities, heritages, families, lineages, right? So Esau goes into so-called white people, Jacob goes into the Israelites, so-called Latinos, Negroes, Native Americans. And we are actually brothers, right? We're actually brothers. The reason you see so much animosity and hatred between the two goes back to Esau and Jacob, right? It talks about how they were going to always, right, be contrary to one another. right? It talks about how there's two manner of people inside, I think it was Sarah's womb, right? Sarah, not Rebecca. I always get this confused. But, and how they're going to be completely contrary to one another. And when you go back to Genesis, it was also talking about that. How the woman's seed was going to have enmity with the serpent, right? The wicked versus the righteous. Right? It's the same story going back to Cain, Abel, right? The woman, serpent, Jacob, Esau. It's the same story. But the point is that the Most High is coming back to gather all nations, right, to destroy them. Okay, that's going to happen over there in the east, right? The Valley of Yehoshaphat is talking about over there in the east, right, around Saudi Arabia. Okay, and these people, these Americans, hey, they're going to go over there and fight. Let's read it. Right, because what we're seeing right now with the legislation being pretty much brought up about, oh, the draft is coming back. Yeah, the draft is going to come back. It's going to reach a point in time where everybody's going to have to go. Everybody's going to have to go fight, or else a prison, right, jail time, okay? And they're going to try to incentivize them. And they're going to tell you, yup, you can go fight. When you come back, we'll give you 7 times this amount of money, the salary. We'll give you a brand new Camaro. We'll give you this and that. Right? But at the end of the day, you're not going to come back to enjoy those things, right? Because everybody that goes and fights the third war, Yahweh Shai is going to come and smoke them. Right? You can read that in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. This is Joel chapter 2. Verse 20 says, but I will remove far off from you the northern army. Right? What is the northern army talking about? North America, the American army. It says, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. And that's the point, is that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, hey, this American army, northern army, he's going to drive them over there to the east to go fight. Okay, and the majority of them, if they ain't part of the elect, hey, they're through. They're smoked. Okay, Yahweh Shai is going to smoke them, hey, instantly. Okay. Let's actually read that. Let's read that in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. Since I quoted it. So we read 2nd Ezra chapter 13. I'll start at verse 1, context. It says, it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. When he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And this is talking about Yahweh Shai, when he comes back with the angels, and so-called UFOs. It says, and whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feareth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there is gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Right? This is talking about all these nations. All these nations are going to be fighting against each other. Russia is going to be with Iran. Ultimately, it's going to be all nations, right? East versus west. And eventually, it's going to be all nations against America, right? Because they're going to realize that this place is the problem, right? The philosophy, the way of living that's pushed, this way is the problem, this place. Okay, and everybody's going to turn upon this place. But it says, but I beheld, and lo, he had engraved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. Right? This is talking about Yahweh Shai, and it's talking about he engraved himself a great mountain, and that's talking about his ship. Right? Because Yahweh Shai, right, when you go to Acts 1st chapter, it talks about how he ascended up to heaven in the cloud. Right? And Peter and the other disciples were pretty much shook. Right? Imagine seeing a so-called UFO, right? Pretty much seeing Yahweh Shai go up on a so-called UFO or chariot, whatever it was, and just going into heaven. They were shook. And it talks about how, hey, they were seeing this, and 2 men, right, angels told them, hey, why are you tripping? Pretty much. The same way you saw him leave is the same way he's going to come back. Okay, he's coming back in that cloud. Okay, and the cloud is symbolic, okay, or it's talking about the UFOs, the vehicles of the angels. It also talks about it right here. Right? How, I think it's Revelation, the 1st chapter, right? How it talks about how he's going to come back, right, with the clouds. Okay, here it talks about the thousands of heaven, talking about the angels. Okay, but it says, verse 6, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. Right, so Ezra was implying that he was trying to see, hey, where the mountain came from, where it began, where it ended, but he couldn't see it, like going into how big it was. Right, for example, in that movie Independence Day, where you see the giant, pretty much UFO, and you start seeing the small ones coming out of it, that's pretty much the same way it's going to be. You're going to have the giant fathership of Yahweh Shai, and the other angels are popping up. Okay, and it's going to be so big that from the northwest, east, south, you're not going to be able to see where it ends or where it begins. Right, so just imagine. But it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath. And out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And that's talking about spiritual power. Now, when you see all these movies about the X-Men, and about Superman, about Iron Man, and all these Marvel movies about all the spiritual power they're doing, right? We're reading that in the scriptures. That's what Yahweh Shai is going to come back to do. Verse 11 it says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude, which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. Okay, so he said that, hey, that great multitude you saw, right, he smoked them all instantly. With the blast of fire, the tempest, right, the wind, spiritual power all coming out of his mouth, he instantly smoked them. Okay? And this is talking about those that go and fight that Third World War, right? Because when you go down, right, when you go down to verse 32, it talks about the same thing, right, but in a different fashion. It says, and the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen when I showed you before, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending, right, Acts the first chapter. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. Right, so all these nations are going to be fighting against each other. When they see Yahweh Shai come back, they're all going to stop. They're going to get together, fight the common enemy. You actually had Ronald Reagan who said this in a presidential, pretty much like a presidential speech. He went into how, what were we to do, right? If we saw an outside alien invasion, wouldn't we leave our wars and get together and fight that common threat? He literally said this, right? He literally prophesied what was going to happen, okay? Straight out of the scriptures. But it says, and when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another, and an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them willing to come, and to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Zion. Right, so everything they do is going to be in vain. Right, and this is actually talked about in, let me see what scripture that is. I think Revelation 12, where it talks about Michael and his angels are going to find Satan and his angels. That's talking about World War III. Let's see if I can find it. Right. In Revelation chapter 12 and verse 7, it says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Right, and this is talking about, when it's talking about Michael and his angels, it's talking about Yahweh Shai coming back with the angels, the powers. Okay, when it's talking about how they're fighting the dragon and his angels, the dragon is talking about America, NATO, EU, and this current infrastructure empire. Right, angels, this goes into messengers. Right, this army's messengers, this American technology is going to try to fight against Yahweh Shai and his angels, but it's going to be to none effect. Right, it's going to be to none effect. Right? We just read that 2nd Ezra 13. But it says, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Right? Because their place being in heaven, going into, they're not going to be flying their planes in the skies. Right? All these satellites are gonna be not gonna be anything. Are not gonna be there anymore. Right? The space station, International Space Station, that's not gonna be a thing anymore. Right? All of that, they're gonna be brought down to the ground. The earth is gonna be pretty much refreshed. Right? That's what it talks about in 2nd Peter. Let's jump there. 2nd Peter, not 1st Peter. 2nd Peter chapter 3. Right, 2nd Peter chapter 3, I'll start at verse 10. It says, but the day of Yahweh will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And this is talking about, this is going to happen by the way of nuclear destruction. Okay? It says, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Right? And when you go into that word conversation, it goes into the Greek word anastrophe, which pretty much means matter of life, conduct. Right? So knowing, this is the hood translation. Right? It's saying, knowing that this place is going to be destroyed, how are you supposed to be conducting yourself? Is what Peter's trying to say. Right? And the answer is supposed to be the righteousness. You're supposed to be a righteous man. Right? You're supposed to be, hey, as it says in I think it's Revelation chapter 18. Right? It talks about how these are the saints, right, who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Yahweh Shai. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Keeping the commandments of Yahweh, the law, statutes, commandments, to the best of our ability, okay, which means not sinning, and having faith in Yahweh Shai, the Messiah. But it says, verse 12, looking for and hasting until the coming of the day of God, when the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. And what else can make the elements melt with fervent heat? Nuclear destruction. It says, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. That's the point, is that this is what we're looking forward to. Now, when it's talking about a new heaven and a new earth, it's not talking about an actual new earth or new heavens. Now, when you go into that word new, it goes into the Greek word kainos, right, which means refreshed. Right? Because when Yahweh Shai comes back to rule this earth, everything is going to be refreshed. It's going to be made new. Okay, anew. Okay? Okay, this earth is going to be ran on a righteous vibration. The earth is going to give forth its increase again. Right? Everything is going to be refreshed. That's what that word new means there. So when we're reading that his place is not found in heaven, right? The earth, the atmosphere is going to be refreshed. Okay, that's what it's talking about. Right? So going back to Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 30. Let's see. Right, going into the American Army. Because if there were to be a draft, all these American men, they're not fit to fight. Right? They're pretty much, they've been feminized, right? Made, yeah, literally that word, made feminized. The man now acts like the woman and the woman acts like a man. And you even have all these, I think it was Cardi B who made a video talking about that. Talking about how you can't send these soy boys, right, these generation of men to go fight. And these are the weakest men to ever have existed, right, is right now. Some of the weakest men, right, because they're told, don't speak your mind, right, don't be a man, oh, that's toxic masculinity, right, and there's no such thing as toxic masculinity, right, just being masculine. Right, and if you go into all the history of the other empires, okay, that's what won wars, was so-called toxic masculinity. That's what set up empires and kingdoms, was so-called toxic masculinity. Okay, and that's how things operate. Right? You have a divine structure. You have Yahweh, you have Yahweh Shai, then you have man, then you have woman, then you have the children. Right? And once you come or you deviate from that structure, that's when you have problems. Right now, you have pretty much the woman over the man. And that's why you see this chaos. That's why you see relationships failing. Okay, that's why you see the women out here acting like a harlot. Which that was prophesied. I think Amos 5th chapter. When entire your wife is going to be a harlot in the streets. But the point is that everything is out of course, right? As it says, the foundations of the earth are out of course. Okay, but in Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 30, it says, the mighty men of Babylon, aka America, have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might have failed. They became as women. They have burned their dwelling places, for bars are broken. Okay, and that's actually what's going to happen, right? Foreborn goes into not going to fight. Right? When this draft goes mandatory, right? When it's you have to go fight or else prison. Majority of these TikTok influencers, these YouTube influencers, or all these men making an influence off social media, right? They're not going to go fight, right? Because these people don't have that patriotism in them anymore. Right? They don't have that American spirit to go fight anymore because they're realizing the corruptness, okay, of this society. Right? Who's going to go and fight for a country that doesn't benefit them? Right? Especially these veterans, right? They're realizing that. Right? They're realizing that they went, they fought all these years, right? They did all their service, their time. But here it is, they're homeless. Right? Their own government isn't taking care of them. Right? All the tax money that's supposed to go towards them to help them, right, is going to Ukraine. Right? It's going to Israel. Okay? To just be wasted. Right? To just put men on the front line to be cannon fodder. Right? There's food, missile food. Okay? So one more time, it says the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Right? They're not gonna go. Right? They'd rather go to prison. Okay, that's what the elect men are gonna do. The true believers of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, they're not gonna go fight no war. Right? Because we know the outcome. Right? But it's different from these other American men. They're not gonna go out of pure fear. It says, their might have failed, they became as women, they have burned her dwelling places, her bars are broken. And that's the point, is that that's all prophetic. Right? The matter of the fact that men act like women, women act like men, that goes back to what's prophesied in Jeremiah. Right? How woman shall come past the man. Let's actually pull that. Right. In Jeremiah chapter 31, in verse 22, it says, how long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. Right? And that's a new thing. Right? Which that prophecy is taking place in these times. That's why you see a woman, okay, out here, okay, with 10, 20, 30, 40 men chasing after her. Right? Because the woman shall compass a man. When he goes to that word compass, goes into circle around. Right? And that's what's happening right now. Women are running circles around men. All those sayings goes back to the scriptures. Okay, and everything goes back to fulfilling prophecy. Right? So let's go to hit that scripture about. Let's go to Ezekiel 23. Right? Because the same way American military is gonna go over there. Hey, all those military men, okay, these NATO troops, okay, all these UN troops, these actual other nations, they're gonna come and boots on the ground here in America too. Let's read it. Right. In Ezekiel chapter 23, in verse 22, it says, therefore, O Aholibah, thus saith Yahweh, behold, I will raise up thy lovers against thee, from whom thy might is alienated, and I'll bring them against thee on every side. Now, when you go into Aholibah, right, it's talking about the nation of Israel. It says the Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Pekod and Shoa and Koa, and all the Assyrians with them, all of them desirable young men, captains or rulers, great lords and renowned, all of them riding upon horses. Right, now when it's talking about these other nations, Babylonians, right, the whole list, that's just pretty much talking about how other troops are going to come to inhabit this place, right, to attack these so-called Americans. And it says, and they shall come against thee with chariots, wagons, and wheels, and with an assembly of people, which shall set against thee buckler and shield, and helmet round about. Now set judgment before them, and they shall judge thee according to their judgments. Right? So they're going to do whatever they want. You read that in 2 Ezra 16, how it's going to be a dog-eat-dog world. Right? Survival of the fittest. Right? Every man for his own. Okay, they're not going to regard their kings from their princes. And every man's actions is going to be upon their own hand. It says, and I will set my jealousy against thee, and they shall deal furiously with thee. They shall take away thy nose and thine ears, and thy remnant shall fall by the sword. They shall take thy sons and thy daughters, and thy residue shall be devoured with the fire. They shall also strip thee out of thy clothes and take away thy fairer jewels. Right? That's going to specifically now talk about the women. Right? But everybody, but these women, hey, they're truly going to get it. Right? Because as Elder Makama always says, you have all these women right now riding the car carousel, jumping from man to man. But soon to come, that car carousel is going to ride them. Right? All these men, they have done dirty. All these men, they have done dirty. Okay? That they have sent to prison for. Right? Once they get released, okay? Once all these men are out here, no police, these women are going to be prey. They're defenseless. The only reason the woman has a voice right now is because she has protection from the government. There's all these laws and legislations that, oh, you can't talk to a woman a certain way. You'll get canceled. You'll literally get fined, oh, hate speech. But once all that goes out the window, these women don't have protection. Right? They don't. Right? A 180-pound woman, right, that so-called knows martial arts, a 14-year-old boy, a 14-year-old boy can literally overpower her. Right? That's the dynamic. So when you have 30-year-old men, right, full of testosterone, weighing 200 pounds, 220, 240 pounds, that know all these martial arts and have guns, and pull up to a 120-pound female, defenseless. And that's going to be a majority of the atrocities, is these women absolutely get savage and ransacked. Okay? It says, for thus saith Yahweh, behold, I will deliver thee into the hand of them whom thou hatest, into the hand of them for whom thy man is alienated. They shall deal with thee hatefully, and shall take away all thy labor, and shall leave thee naked and bare. And the nakedness of thy whoredoms shall be discovered, both thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. And I will do these things unto thee, because thou hast gone a whoring after the heathen, because thou art polluted with their idols. Right, so the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and he's going to do this to these women because of their wickedness. Right? Because of their wickedness. Right? As it says in Job, nobody ever has perished being innocent. We all get judged for what we have done. Okay, in this society, the women have gone completely left. Right? Some of the biggest degenerates is the Israelite woman. The biggest degenerate is actually the so-called black woman. Complete degenerate. Okay? And they're going to have to pay. But that's the point on that. Let's go to Ezekiel 38. Go into how Russia, or how all this conflict is going to happen. You're going to have Russia at the forefront of these other nations. This is Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 1. It says, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. No, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, which Gog, the land of Magog, is ultimately talking about the Russians. Right? And all these scholars, they know this. Right? If you were to go to where the land of Magog, Gog was in the ancient times, and compare it today, it would be exactly where Russia is at. As he's talking about the Russians. It says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company, with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Right? This is talking about, when it's talking about Yahweh, right, putting hooks into Gog and Magog's land, or the Russians, it's talking about how he's going to get the Russians back into that primitive state. Right? He's going to get them back into that USSR mindset, right, when they were truly about that action. Right? It says, Persia, which Persia is talking about Iran, right? You do the history, before Iran was called Iran, it was called Persia. Right? It says Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Right? So you're going to have all these eastern countries, right there with Russia. Right? And Russia, Russia's going to get revamped. Right? Russia's going to be at the forefront of World War III. It says Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with you. Right? Togomar, Gomer, it's talking about Turkey. When you go into it, it's talking about Turkey, which you see that happening right now. Even though Turkey is part of NATO, right, you see Turkey trying to join BRICS, right? Which eventually that's what it's going to lead to. It says, "Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou, now thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them." That's the point. Salakia. That's the point, is that Russia is supposed to be a guard, right? Russia is supposed to be the front. It's supposed to be the face, okay, of this coming world war. Okay, Russia at the front, being a guard. Iran, Turkey, okay? Iran, Turkey, China, South Africa, okay? All these nations, the BRICS countries, Russia at the forefront. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's no coincidence. This was written over 2,000 years ago, and it's happening right now. Kahalal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Rakata Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, the water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Thank the Lord, man. Thank the Lord that you have this knowledge. Right? Because this is the real deal, man. This is happening. Yeah, and that should amp you up, man. It should put you in the spirit. Right? Like, this is actually happening. Thank the Lord, man. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. But when you keep reading, it goes into what's going to happen. So these Russians, with all these nations, Iran, it says, "And after many days thou shalt be visited in the latter years, thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people, against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them." Right? It says, "Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm, thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, and many people with thee." Right? This is talking about how, hey, all these nations, they're going to go over to the Holy Land, they're going to go to Israel, and destroy those people that are there over there, those imposters. They're going to make that land desolate, right? They're going to wipe it off the face of the earth. And it says, while they're doing this, thus saith Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Right? So while they're destroying Israel in that land, they're going to have an evil thought. And it says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates." Okay, and the land of unwalled villages is talking about America, right? For example, think about it. Villages. Right? All these states can be referred to as villages, different states, right? But they're all unwalled. There's no actual division point, right? You look at the map, it looks like lands. It looks like there's lines there. There's no actual walls. The land of unwalled villages, America, 51 states. Okay, that's what's gonna happen. So pretty much summing it up, verse 12 it says, "To take a spoil and to take prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, and that dwell in the midst of the land." So pretty much, Russia, Iran, Turkey, all these nations are going to make Israel desolate. And while they're doing that, they're going to have an evil thought, do the same thing to America. And they're going to do it. Okay, they're going to do it. But also, all nations, right? All nations are going to do this. Not just NATO, or not just Russia. NATO, America's allies, are going to turn upon this place. Right? And let's read that in Revelation 17, verse 16. Now this is Revelation chapter 17 and verse 16. And when you go into this breakdown of the beast with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, the 7 heads is talking about the 7 empires of the Edomites. The 10 horns is talking about NATO and EU. So when we read, it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." Right? So these 10 horns, NATO and EU, America's allies, are going to turn upon this place and destroy this place with fire, aka nukes. It says, For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Right, so this is gonna happen because it's the Most High's pretty much mission, his will, his determination. And let's read that in Zephaniah. Always pops up. Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8 it says, Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, till unto the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Right, so that's the Lord's mission. His mind to his determination is to gather the nations and destroy them. That's what's written, okay? And it's going to happen. Right, it's going to happen. So, let's get another scripture talking about that. How all nations are going to turn upon this place. Let's read a little bit. Habakkuk chapter 2. In verse 1 it says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And that's talking about the prophecies. Right? It says that the vision, the prophecies, is for an appointed time. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has everything by measure. Right? This can't happen unless this happens, and this can't happen unless this happens. Right? So the prophecy is for an appointed time. And it says, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. And that's what's happening right now. These visions are speaking and they're not lying. Everything that is written is happening the same way it's been written. And it says, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Right? That word tarry goes into like prolonging. I feel like it's taking forever. It's procrastinating. Although it feels like it's taking forever, wait for it. Right? Because it's going to happen. Right? It's going to happen for sure. Right? And just reading that made me think of Ezekiel, the 33rd chapter. Let's read that. Right? Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 30 says, Also thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls, and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another, every one to his brother, saying, Come, I pray you, and hear what is the word that cometh forth from Yahweh. So this is talking about how, like me prophesying, brothers prophesying, us making videos, these people see that. And when they see that, they tell their family members, hey, look at this, check this out. Look at what this guy's seeing. Right? Because these words are valuable. Right? Precious. It says, And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them. Right? For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness. Right? You see this all the time. Right? How you have our people talking about, yeah, I love God. Right? But as soon as you tell them, what does it mean to love God? Pull that scripture where it says, where it literally says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Right? For the keeping of the commandments is the love of the Most High. You read that to them, hey, they don't want to hear it anymore. And their heart goes after their covetousness, whatever they want to do. Right? So they hear the word, but they're not going to do it. It says, And lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that hath a pleasant voice, and can play well on an instrument, for they hear thy words, but they do them not. Okay, and that's how things are supposed to be, is that, hey, 2/3 of the nation of Israel are not supposed to hear the word. They're not supposed to get it. Okay, they're supposed to be circumcised in the ears, as it says. They're supposed to be blind, spiritually blind. And that's the way the Lord has set it up. It says, this is the point, it says that when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come. Right? And when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come, the prophecies, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. Right? So when all these prophecies come to pass, they're going to realize, damn, that guy we were talking to, right, we should have listened. Right? We should have hearkened. But by that time, it's going to be too late. Right? It's going to be too late. That's the point, is that it's going to happen. Lo, when it comes to pass, lo, it won't come. It's going to happen. So going back to Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3, it says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, that the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, and will not tarry. Behold, and now this is talking about the Edomites. It says, behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine. Right? Wine is talking about philosophies. Okay? You can read that in Jeremiah 50, I think Jeremiah chapter 51, right? Talking about the wine. Right? America transgresses by the philosophy that they push. It says, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desires hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Right, this is talking about America. Right, when you go into that word clay in the Hebrew, it goes to the Hebrew word ibatia, which means a weight of pledges, heavy debts, right, a lot of debt. Okay, that's exactly what America does. It constantly borrows, and never gives back. Right, America is in heavy debt, right, in thick clay. Okay, and that's how you know, man. These scriptures don't lie. Search up right now, America debt clock. You literally have a website dedicated to America's debt. Right, and I think right now it's like at 34 trillion. Right, that's never going to be paid off. And also, when you go into it, that was all systemically set up. Right, as soon as America or the dollar was taken off the gold standard by Nixon, right, this dollar has been a ticking time bomb for destruction. Right, it's a ticking time bomb for this economy to collapse. Right, because America's money is not backed by anything. Right, it's a fiat currency. The only reason the American currency is on point or is still pushing is because the people believe in it. That's it. But it says, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. Right? Booties goes into spoils. That's exactly what America is going to be. Right? It's going to be a spoil towards all its allies and enemies. It says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Right, so they gotta pay. They gotta pay for the violence that happened here in this land. And they gotta pay. But let's get another scripture, same point. Obadiah, chapter 1, and verse 6. It says, how are the things of Esau? It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And that's what's happening right now is all the lies, all the deception that the Edomites, so-called white people, have pushed upon the nations, it's being sought out, right? It's being seen. Okay, and there's nothing that these nations, Esau, can do to stop it. Right? Everything is evidence. It's plain upon tables. The fact that they hid their identity, okay, who they really are, okay, biblically. The fact that they hid the identity of the true Hebrew Israelites, so-called Latinos, Negroes, Native Americans, right? All of that is being found out. It says, all the men of that confederacy, right? So all of Esau's confederates, allies, it says, have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. And that's exactly what we've been reading. Revelation 17, verse 16, Habakkuk chapter 2, like verse 6, verse 5, and now Obadiah. All of America's allies are going to turn upon this place. And the reason is because of the philosophies that this place pushes, is the way that this place runs the world, is in wickedness. Right, let's read that in Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 7. Says, Babylon has been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. right? And like I said, when it's talking about the wine, it's talking about philosophy. These nations, every single nation, is drinking of the American philosophy, Westernization, right? And they hate it. They see that it's completely destructive. And they see that as soon as their daughters, right, all these men, right, Saudi Arabia, just imagine, they see that as soon as their daughters start hopping on TikTok, right, start watching these feminists, right, they start watching these Cardi B's and these Megan Thee Stallions and these Sexy Reds and these Ice Spices. As soon as they start seeing all these things and all these harlots, these prostitutes shaking ass in the street, and that's the new thing, that's what's popping, that completely destroys them. That completely destroys their daughters, makes them be just like that, right? Because when you're a child, your mind is pretty much moldable, right? It's in the most moldable forms, stages that it's ever gonna be, right? So when you're a child, okay, you're pretty much moldable. And if what you're seeing is wickedness, these women doing these things, you're gonna grow up to think that that's the right thing to do, right? So when you have these uh, these men, Saudi Arabia, see their daughters becoming harlots, prostitutes, right, sluts, they hate that, right? They hate that. That infuriates it. That infuriates them. Same thing with the boys. As soon as they see their boys becoming homosexuals and they want to do all these things, right, just like women, it infuriates them. It's the same thing. So for that reason, that's why these nations, you see them turning the evil eye. You see them slowly but surely separating from this place, right? Because they're realizing, everybody's realizing that this place is the problem, right? And it's only going to get more and more apparent as time goes by. But let's get another scripture. It talks about it in Revelation also. Revelation chapter 18, I'll start at verse 1. It says, "And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every false spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird." Right, so everything that is unclean against the Most High, you can find it here. You want to practice Santeria? You can find it here. You can find your own clique. You want to be a so-called Christian? You can find it here. You want to be a Muslim? You can find it here. You want to make your own religion? You want to make a religion of the goats and make your own little synagogue downtown? You can do it. Whatever you want to do, it flies here. It says, "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." That's what we just read. Right? These nations drunk of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." Right, so even though that's the trick bag, is that these nations are being corrupted, but on the flip side, they're making insane amounts of money, right, off this society and how people live, right? Because hey, you see it all the time, right? Go ask a so-called Moabite Chinese person, what's their game plan? Or what's the game plan when they come to America? Their game plan is set up set up a set up a Chinese shop, right? Set up a Chinese shop in nigga neighborhood. As they say, set up Chinese shop in nigga neighborhood. Right? They go to where Jake is at, right? The barrios, right? The slums, okay, the hood, and they set up all their little mom and pop shops, right? They sell these Arabs go over there and they set up their gas stations, right? Their 7-Elevens, right? They set up their crack fried chicken, right? Completely destroying your insides. Okay, that's how they're getting rich. Okay, that's how. Hey, what we just read one more time. It says, "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." Right. So, and that's one of the main game plans. Like I said, the Arabs, they open up their 7-Elevens. The Chinese, they going up to open up their little mom and pop shops. But where is it at primarily? In the hood, in the slums. And they completely take advantage of our people. Now, when you go to the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, and you read about how the dogs are there licking the sores of Lazarus, and that's talking about how these other nations, they're the dogs. They're licking the sores, Lazarus being Israel, they're licking the sores of the Israelites. Right? They're completely just wounding us, right? More and more and more. They take advantage. This is nothing new. And you can, hey, there's this woman on TikTok who she talks about this. And she talks about how, yeah, we can't go into the white neighborhood and set up our shops. We can't do it. Right? There's literally laws and legislation that they can't do it. Okay, so we'll see. Let's go to get a couple more scriptures to close out here. 2nd Ezra 15. Right, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 28. It says, "Behold the horrible vision, the appears thereof from the east." And this is all talking about the same thing, World War III. It says, "Whereof the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out of with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble." When I was talking about the dragons of Arabia coming out with many chariots, we're talking about how those Arabs are going to come with all their military and come fight. It says also the Carmanians, when you go into Carmania was a province in Asia Persia, which is the Carmanians is talking about the Iranians, the people from Iran. So the Arabs and the Carmanians, the Iranians, also the Carmanians raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Now, when it's talking about the land of the Assyrians here, it's talking about the land of Israel when you go into it. Okay? So these people from Iran, Arab, they're going to go and destroy Israel. Okay? And slowly but surely, we're reaching up to that point. Okay? It says, "And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power, to persecute them." Right? And when it's talking about the dragons of Arabia, the Dragians, remembering their nature, this goes back to their descendants. This goes back to, because these Arabs, they go back to Ishmael, right? Son of Abraham. They go back to Ishmael. Okay, and Ishmael, he was named Ishmael because it says that he was going to be a wild man, and his hand was going to be against the hand of everybody. He was going to be a wild person. Okay, and in the spirit, okay, that's how these people are. They're wild people. So it's saying that these dragons, these Arabs, right? They're going to remember their wild nature, that they're wild people. They're Ishmaelites. Okay? And it says, "Then these shall be troubled bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of Assyria shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them, and in the host shall be fear and dread, and strife among the kings." It says, "Behold clouds from the east, and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm." Now, when it's talking about the clouds, it's talking about the so-called UFOs. Now, they're going to be horrible to look upon, right? They're going to be out here fucking shit up. It says, "They shall smite one upon another. They shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth. Even their own star in blood shall come from the sword unto the belly." So they're going to be out here, like I said, fucking shit up. Laser beam, right? And when we're talking about that one star, it's ultimately talking about the main nuclear missile. And that's what's going to come down. Okay, because you're going to have Yahushua with the angels, pretty much, as we read, 2nd Ezra 13, causing havoc. But also, on the other hand, those nuclear destructions are also going to play their role. Okay, so that's ultimately what's going to happen. And like I started the video with the camp talking about how Israel attacked Lebanon. Eventually, it's going to be Israel, Iran. Okay, America's back in Israel. Russia backs Iran. America versus Russia. That's the timeline that was prophetically spoken. And that's, America ultimately was written as America is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles. This place is going to be a wasteland forever. That's prophetic. So I'll leave it at that. Hopefully this is edifying. With that, we give our praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, the noble honors to the honored bishops and apostles of Great Millstone, that time of this truth. Shalom to you, Shalom.